Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's live. I'm Dr. Tammy and I have a really crazy live for you tonight. So thanks for joining. And this is all about you, but I have a great topic tonight, genetics and hormones. So I'm going to get right into it, but I just want to do a little housekeeping. So if you are new here, I'm all things perimenopause, menopause, hormone balance issues, and I am just we have had like a little snowstorm here. It's not a lot of snow, but I think we have enough snow on our lines that my internet is out. So I am hot spotting right now. And if anything happens, if it's a delay, I'll hop back in. So please hang tight and I'll see if I can come back in. My live stream is also running on my computer. So if it's pulling energy from one or the other, we'll see. So I'm just hoping, and I tend to get in trouble as well because I say things that I say things that aren't always well received out there. And so if you lose me as well, please hang on, because usually they'll punish me for just a few minutes. So and I did get in. Is there like a TikTok jail kind of thing? So I think I did that. So if you guys would, if you like my content, go to my link in bio, and there's tons of freebies in there. They're downloads, they're informational things. Any one of those that you download, we will ask for your email, and only if you are interested or these topics are good. But if you will go do that, we will have your email so we can let you know where we are streaming or where we're available. And then you won't miss us in case anything happens here. Just saying, because I'm not going to stop telling the truth. I'm not going to stop talking about the truth. So I love that you guys support me and you want to hear this. And I know that if I ever say anything wrong or that's not the truth, I welcome somebody to come back and say, hey, you missed something or you got it wrong. And I'm always willing to admit that I got it wrong. And in fact, my practice and the way I do hormones have adjusted so much over the past 25 years that I always say, I see this. I'm doing a little bit different now, right? So that's totally okay. So you guys share with me. I learn a lot from you guys. So share with me if you have anything, especially information. And I promised that I would talk about a few other things tonight than just genetics. So I know we talked about libido a little bit, so I want to make sure that I get that in. But if you guys have questions, please just pop them in the chat. And I love hearing from you guys too. And a little more housekeeping, sorry, if you tap the screen, it sends hearts and it tells everybody that we're talking about cool stuff. And then there's a little arrow thing that you can share and you can share with people. I always try to repost these lives within a few days. Sometimes things get a little crazy, but I always try to repost them so you can go back and watch them later. But if you have a pencil or a pen and a notepad, it's always great to take notes, and you can always screenshot my screens when you want to. So at any time, I also take pictures of these, and I also have them available later as well as my notes. So if you ever want those, cool. So anyway, okay, let's jump right into it. And my claim is always that on Scout's honor. Hey, Constantina, I saw you at your consult. Yay, that's awesome. On Scout's honor, if you don't learn something new and something a little scary or interesting tonight, we will send you a free hormone test kit. This tests for estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. So if you are struggling and your doctor won't listen to you, we will. So you can just get a test kit. Go to hormonebliss.com or my link in bio, and it'll have all the links to everything. And again, please go there if you follow me on a regular basis. My tribe, I love you so much. Yeah, it's crazy. This community is growing so much. It's just so cool. It just makes my heart happy. Um, I'm new here. Are you open for out of state consultations? Can you do hormone testing? Yes, this is our hormone testing. This is a saliva kit. We can also do blood spot. We actually have had some people reach out and go, I can't produce that much saliva, so they want the finger stick. But this is so easy. And the thing I like about saliva is it actually tells us the intracellular levels of what's going on in the cells. And I get that a lot. Is accurate? This is a lab that's been around for almost 30 years. And so it's super, super accurate. What what we do is when you order the kit, we send it to your house. You fill this with saliva. I mean, like saliva, just a little bit. And then you send it into the lab, and it's free shipping both ways. And then as soon as we get it from the lab, it also includes a consult with one of our hormone experts, and we are nationwide. So yes, absolutely. If you want to come to Arkansas and visit me in my office, that's fabulous. But we are all over the U.S., so it's super simple. And if you go to my link in bio, it'll say order test kit, and you can go right there. And we like try to make this like super affordable. So I think my moderator gets mad at me when I lower the price too much because we have to keep the lights on, but I want to make it affordable too. So it's $129 for the test kit. And if you were to go to a doctor in a lab and get your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and if you could even get them to do it, it'd probably be $500 or $600. So this is a really cool deal. And a lot of women have been gaslighted for years. And yay, you got your test kit mailed today. Yes, woohoo! Tested consultant joined the program. Yay, I love it. I love it, Tacoma. I love it. I love it. We don't take insurance. And the reason for that is because insurance doesn't give a crap what you got going on. And we have individualized therapy. So we listen to you, we do testing, we do treatment, and your insurance only wants to put you on big pharma. They only want this system, this commercial thing. And one of the interesting things about compounding pharmacies is they're all about you, and we take your labs and your symptoms. And so when you do this intake sheet, hi Carol, when you do this intake sheet, I always say frozen shoulder because people don't realize frozen shoulder is part of ovarian failure. And I'm going to talk a lot about ovarian hormones here. So all you guys that are my tribe, I always have to rant about ovarian failure and all the things: night sweats, weight gain, fatigue, vaginal dryness, incontinence, brain fog. So there's like 70 things on this sheet. So you guys who have done the test, it's a lot of things. And then the cool thing is when you get the labs back, not only do we see what your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are, but we can correlate your symptoms. And so they put all that together, which is really cool. Oh, my moderator's saying, get to the point. Genetics. I know. I just love it. I get so passionate and excited. Okay. So I promise, and we're going to have people dropping off because they're going to be like, you said you were going to talk about genetics, and then I'm not. So I am. I totally am. So I'm just so glad to see you guys doing your test kit. So yeah. So, okay, get your test kit, but hang tight because I'm going to talk about all things genetics. So don't leave the site just yet till I'm done, because I have some cool things. And I always talk about really kind of creepy and scary things that they don't want you to know. So hang tight because I have it like sprinkled all the way through. Okay. Thank you, Connie. Okay. So genetics and hormones. So like genetics tend to be this thing that we just want to, my earrings kind of pulled up. Genetics tend to be this thing that we just want to blame everything on. Oh, it's just my genetics, right? So our genetics dictate what our hair color is. And my hair color is not this orange, I promise. I don't know. It's my lighting. I have to work on that. But anyway, I'm here. So, but our eye color, all the things, right? And so a lot of times when we struggle with things like being overweight or with different disease processes, but the bad thing about genetics with being overweight is it's absolutely a thing. Don't let them tell you it's not. But we want to blame it, but there's so much we can do about it. And yes, while there is a genetic component to things, we have something called epigenetics, EPI, epigenetics. And what that means is that our environment dictates everything about the way our genes comply or the way our genes work. So what I want to do is I want to talk about how a certain system works, because I'm so passionate about this, because me, it's all about the root cause. Okay, so root cause is all these symptoms, right? On this list, all these symptoms, these are just symptoms. And what we go one layer deeper is hormones, right? That seem to fix everything, right? And it's not just symptom control. It's all about, we don't have ovaries anymore after menopause, or in perimenopause, things are really dysfunctional. And so we have to get that balanced. But your genetics holds so much information in it. And I always say you wouldn't do a test if you didn't have an intervention for it, right? So you wouldn't get an MRI if you weren't considering back surgery, or, if there was something really wrong, that you wouldn't do something about it. So you wouldn't do a saliva test if you weren't going to do something about it, which is, yes, bioidentical hormones. Love it. But genetics, I do those because I can tell you what your risk factors are, but what you can do about it, and very simply with supplements and nutrients. And I did supplements the other night. I don't know if I've reposted that one yet, but talked all about different supplements that help your metabolism and your hormones and all that. So, one of the things that happens with your genetics is the way you process hormones, process chemicals. So I'm going to talk about all that as well. So, oh, thank you. got a little heart on my head. I love a little heart on my head. So, yeah, so how you process things, super, super important. So I'm going to tell you what can be dangerous. And there's one supplement, and that was my teaser video earlier tonight to invite you guys in. Oh, hi, Elaine. The teaser video was basically what supplement could be dangerous. So you'll want to listen to this because the supplement is not only dangerous, it could kill you, it could cause seizures, it can cause birth defects, it can cause heart disease, strokes, blood clots. So there's so much more than when people are like, they just want a dog estrogen. There's so much more to that because this process you're going to learn about is all about how your body processes hormones, which then put you at risk in the way they process hormones. And I am just so blown away too when I loved it. So you guys are popping in and out, and I know, but so while I have anybody on here who will listen, I want to say that the WHI study in 2002 that scared everybody was using synthetic hormones. And I just get so bent out of shape with this. And they had two arms, estrogen arm and an estrogen and progestin arm, synthetic estrogen, ethyl estrogen, and progestins. The estrogen alone arm was not shut down. Everybody says they shut down the study because all there was breast cancer. It was not. The one with the synthetic progestins was the arm that got shut down because it went over the allowable concerns that makes them, but they didn't shut down the whole study. So if anybody wants to blame a hormone, because people always say I can't take hormones because I had cancer, or whatever the risk, blood clots, whatever. It's the synthetic progestins that are the problem, and people just don't know that. So, okay, so enough about that. So I am going to get into what a little thing is called methylation. So when you understand these things and you understand that some things can be deadly, like there's a supplement that could be in your cabinet right now that could be deadly. I'm not even talking about calcium. I always dog on calcium because if you don't have estrogen and vitamin D and thyroid, it won't go into the bones and accumulate. So I'm not even going to go there, but there is this one that is literally deadly. So I'm going to share that with you. My cousin had low B12 and give her B12 science. Why would they check her MTHFR before they do that? Okay, so you are right on track. I'm going to answer that question, I promise. And I'm going to do that right now. But I want to tell you that B12CYN is literally a cyanide molecule. And I'm going to tell you the difference. Yes, cyanide. I know. I freak you guys out all the time. Like if you have B12 in your cabinet right now, it has a cyanide molecule in it, unless it's a methyl B12 or a hydroxy B12. So let's get right into this. I keep saying let's get right into this, but there's so much, right? Okay. So there is a process called methylation. And this process is in your liver. So you have two processes in your liver. One is a detox pathway and one is a methylation pathway. You don't have to know all this. There won't be a quiz, but I promise it'll start to all kind of make sense in just a minute. So what does this methylation process do? And remember, your liver, I know B12 is a meth, good. Your liver is a processing house. It converts your hormones. I almost think of your liver as an endocrine organ, meaning a hormone organ. I mean, it also does bile and digestive stuff, and it does so many things. And it does detox and methylation, but it also converts your hormones. So that's where this plays in. Okay. So this methylation process is like a switchboard, and there's over 20,000 different genes that get turned on and turned off. It's also responsible for energy levels, aging, because when you look at, this is a DNA strand, on the end of these DNA strands are these little end caps that are like shoestring caps. And those are called telomeres. And then when you start to have methylation problems, hormone decline, chemicals in your environment, petrochemicals, I mean, all the things, right? You start to fray, you lose your telomeres, and now your DNA ends start to fray. And that's where the aging comes from. They call it shortening the telomeres. So if you shorten your DNA strands, there's only so much replication that can happen after that. And all death, all cancer, all disease processes are basically the DNA can't keep up, because the DNA makes your immune system, makes your hormones, makes all of that. So you have to keep your DNA intact. It's very, very important. Okay, so the rest of this methylation process, here's the way it works. You make something called methyl groups. So methyl groups are like trash bags. You like my trash bags? Trash bags. And this is a trash receptacle. And like, you know, the big things that you put out by the road, I guess that's what you call receptacle. And this is a trash truck. I know, it's crazy. Okay, so these methyl groups are like trash bags. And what happens is when you have toxins, or you have, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but if you follow me, you have 3 different kinds of estrogen. And estrone is the problematic one, not a bad one, just can be if it's like a weed. It's just a flower out of place in a garden, right? So it's just, if it's out of place, it could cause problems. Okay, so in this methyl group, it being a trash bag, when you have toxins in your body, if you were to leave your trash just loose out on the curb, the trash man would do what? He'd just drive right by. He'd be like, lady, you're crazy. I'm not going to pick up all that trash. You got to pick that up and put it in a bag. Oh, and you not only have to put it in a bag, you have to put it in this big plastic box. And if you don't, he's just going to drive on by, right? So it's very, very important that you are able to bag your trash, put it in the receptacle, and then the trash man picks it up, takes it out of your liver, and then you literally just poop it out. Thank goodness it's gone. So what is this all about? This is called MTHFR. It sounds like a bad word. I've mentioned it in a few of my lives, but what the heck is that? I promise it's not a bad word. And I also want to talk a little bit when I'm explaining this, that if this is a DNA strand, you have 2 strands in your DNA. These little crosshatches are what hold them together. So you get 1 strand from your mom, and you get 1 strand from your dad. And then that connection is a bunch of little amino acids that kind of just do their thing. And there's messaging and mRNA and all that kind of stuff. So if you have a matched pair of socks, that is negative for that gene defect, basically. And we call them SNPs, SNPs, but you don't have to know that either. It's basically just a genetic defect or an alteration, okay? So, and why do these happen? All these chemicals in our environment, stress. I mean, there's just so many things that human beings have done since the Garden of Eden to really mess up our DNA. So we have, this is called homogeneous when you have this same, right? And then we call homogeneous when we have the same. And then we call this heterogeneous when there are 2 different socks. And that is not so. How do we find out we have MTHFR? Okay, so if you can't get a doctor to do it because they probably don't know what this is, and I'm going to tell you a little story about how I found out about this. But we actually do. If you go to my link in bio, it has my website, and you can go into the website and you can actually buy a genetics kit. It's a swab. It's not a saliva, but it's a swab, and you can actually test for this. So I don't talk about this very much. It's kind of a sidebar, but it's a pretty cool test. You might have to, because we don't really advertise it, but if you go to hormonebliss.com, and then when you go over into actually it's shophormonebliss.com, and if you go there, you have to put in the search bar genetics, and there's a genetics kit that you can order. So anyway, so this gene is fascinating. So I'm going to give you a little background before I get into this too much. So there was a lady that came to me, and this was like when I first got out of residency. So this is like back in 2003. And yeah, I know, a long time ago. And she had had 13, I'll never forget it because it was like unlucky. I'm going to move here so I can see. Unlucky, 13 miscarriages. She had been told me there's no data to support this info. IFCOMT. Well, your endocrinologist is wrong. Sorry. I mean, there's so much data. I mean, like, I always say, don't believe me. Go search this, because this is all real. This is legit. This is a thing. This is not, if your endocrinologist said that, they're an idiot. And I don't mean to like dog anybody, but um it could be that endocrinologist doesn't understand genetics. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, okay. So sorry, I just got a little sideways with that. I get so frustrated with commercial medicine not recognizing basic science, right? Okay. So anyhow, so this lady comes to me and she's had 13 miscarriages. She had just do research. um, so, and that's a problem, doctors just like they just, in the box, it's all about pharmaceuticals. It's about seeing 60 patients a day. And somebody asked me about insurance a while ago. That's why, because they don't have time to study this or the inclination, and don't really care because they don't know what to do with it. I'm going to tell you what to do with this. I promise. I'm going to tell you. It's so easy. You're going to just be blown away. Um, all right. Yeah. I mean, autoimmune stuff, all connected, because it's like inflammation, all the things, fibromyalgia, all the things. But I'm going to break this down. Curious what to do. I'm going to tell you what to do. It's so simple. You're going to love it. Okay. So this lady, I keep coming back to this. Okay. I'm going to tell this story. I'm not going to look at any of the comments for like 3 minutes so I can get through this. Okay. So this lady comes in. She's so sweet, so amazing. And she's just like, so I'm in rural practice. I went to pay off my student loans. And so anyway, it's kind of like, if you ever saw that movie, Doc Hollywood, like I was literally almost reading people's mail to them and stuff. So I am a nerd and I love to do research. And so I kind of got the reputation. I mean, I'm in this town that's population of like 800. Counting the dog. And so I kind of got this reputation. So I had people coming from all over the place, want me to like do research and figure stuff out and diagnose stuff. So anyway, I was like, 13 miscarriages, like something's wrong. Everyone in her family who had died early in their late 40s, 50s of heart attacks or strokes or blood clots, hypertension, heart attacks, blood clots or strokes, and cancer. And so anyway, I was like, I have to figure this out. And I had a miscarriage, and it was a late term miscarriage, and it was devastating. So God's doing this stuff for me too, right? And it's kind of like, not to me, but for me to be able to help you guys. So I'm like, okay, I had a miscarriage. And until you have 3 miscarriages, they won't do genetic testing. And when they do genetic testing, they usually only do like Down syndrome, the trisomies, and it's like, that's it. And they tell you, we don't know, and then like I like I had fertility issues for 13 years. So, it was just like kind of in the middle of that. It's like, I am not going through that again. So anyway, I do my research and I'm putting all this together, and I'm like, this has to be a thing, right? And that's what I do. When I hear all these complaints, I put it all together, and I want to I want to attach something. I want something to hang my hat on that I can fix. And it's kind of like with hormones, right? It's like, I want to know like what is going on, and I want to take all these symptoms and I want to attach it to one thing: ovarian failure. And I do, right? Or ovarian dysfunction. So anyway, do my research and I find out about this thing called MTHFR, and it fits. It checks all the boxes. And so I was like, okay, checks all the boxes. Let's test her for it. Well, how do you test for it? I was like, okay, so there is actually a blood test. So you can, I like the swab because it does the whole panel. It does your COMTs, it does your VDRs, it does everything. Hi, Lisa. It does everything. And so I did the blood test because I found that. And that was an easy thing to do because I didn't know about all these things yet. And so it came back positive, and it was homozygous. So she had 2 copies. So she had a copy of this bad thing from her mom and a copy of this bad thing from her dad. And that was the genetics, all her family having all these problems, right? And so anyway, I'm like, okay, what do I do with this? I've never heard of this. I was one of those doctors. It's like, that's hokey. That's nothing. So I'm like, well, if this is really a thing, I should know about it and people should know about it, right? So I sent her to UAMS in Little Rock, and they were like, tell your doctor, pat her on the back. She's so smart. She's figured this out. I'm like, so she comes back, she tells me that. I'm like, oh, I was like, I guessed right. I don't know. It wasn't a guess. It was a God thing. I get these downloads. I'm like, this is cool. And so anyway, I'm like, well, what do we do with this? So as I studied, there's this one fix. I keep teasing you, I know, but there's this one fix. And it changed her life and it changed my life too. So when you understand this, you'll know why. Okay, especially if you've had miscarriages, fertility issues, ovarian dysfunction, fibromyalgia, the whole list, cancer, anything, all of it. Okay, so this is an enzyme. What is an enzyme? An enzyme is, I think of it like yeast and bread. So yeast, Rick, I'm going to tell you just a second. Yeast is like the stuff you put into bread to make it rise. Okay, so enzymes are kind of like yeast. So you have one protein or chemical, and then you have another thing, right? So it's like estrogen converting into testosterone back and forth. That's an enzyme that does that. And it's kind of like yeast in the bread to make it change, right? Or rise. Okay, so this stands for methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. I sound really smart when I say that, don't I? I love that. So yeah, I've memorized that just so I could do that and impress you. Okay, so what is this? This is an enzyme, reductase. And you don't have to know this either, but any word that ends in ASE is an enzyme. And enzymes are critical. It's kind of like a catalytic converter, it converts into other forms, right? And so enzymes are super important for doing these processes that can help bag the trash, put it in the receptacle, put it in the trash truck to get it out of your body. Okay. Now, Rick, I'm going to go into the symptoms now. I promise. Okay. There are two different mutations of this MTHFR. One is called C677T. Again, you don't have to know this, but A1298C. And if you have one copy, then you have certain problems. If you have a copy of the A1298C, then you have different problems. And the importance here, and if you're taking notes or if you want to screenshot this, importance here is that they do a little bit different. They cause a little bit different problems. And if you have both of them, the C677T and the A1298C, that's a family history of early cancer, early heart deaths, fertility, PCOS, you name it. Okay, so on the C677T side, what it does is it actually can't process folate in your system. And I'm going to tell you what that is in just a second. So we're going to talk about, okay, I kind of gave it away. Folate, folic acid is very bad. I'm going to tell you why folic acid is very bad, but there's your fix. So if you guys need a balance, folate is the answer. But I want you to watch because, hey, Krista, I want you to watch because I want to tell you what the difference is and why it's so important. Okay. So this increases something called homocysteine, which is a protein metabolite that is very, 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 very inflammatory. And inflammation is the problem behind everything, right? So if you elevate homocysteine, and only this C677T1 does that, you can have heart attacks, strokes, blood clots. Yes, Rihanna, folic acid is bad. Think of it like acid, like battery acid. And I'm going to tell you why, I promise. Okay. So neural tube defects, that's a spine bifida, like where your spine splits, which interestingly enough, I actually did have a deviated lower spine when I was born. So it was like a mild form of spina bifida is what they said. So it had like a big hole in the back of my back. Yay. So I have all of this. If you wondered, I have a copy of each one. So I got one for my mom and my dad. Yeah, it's very bad if you have the mutation. Yes. Okay. So again, epigenetics, what you do in your environment, if you don't have a bunch of toxins that need trash bags to get out into the trash truck, you can control this too. So you can control it by your environment, your diet, lots of things. So I'm going to share that with you too. But yeah, mental health and inflammation. This is really big. So this is the bad one to have, if you will. The A1298C is bad because it does inflammatory things like the blood vessels in your brain, like migraines, neuropathy and fibromyalgia. And fibromyalgia is really just what we call pain amplification syndrome. So it's inflammation pressing on the nerves everywhere, which is super bad. Leaky gut first. Yeah, and leaky gut. I mean, it's like your gut myome, your blood supply to your gut. I mean, all of that is so important. So yeah, super, super big deal. Okay, so what are we going to do about it if you do have these mutations? So, okay, C677T. Okay, yeah, so you understand. So I'm not making this up, I promise. Okay, so let's flip the board because I have more on the other board. Okay, hang on. Okay, here we are. So, okay, this is where the problem comes. Yes, I am the hormone queen. Yes, thank you. Yes, tell me, please. Yes, okay. So, folic acid versus folate. Oh, I should do not and. I should do versus. So folic acid is we're going to do battery acid. I mean, battery acid's not bad, right? If it's in your battery. Okay, so we got folic acid here. So I got to tell you a little story here. Folate is foliage, like green things, right? Like cruciferous vegetables. And folate is the form that you want. So from the foods, and there are natural forms of folate. So if you do need to go, folate is the answer, not folic acid. Limit your folic acid. So as I studied this more and more, this was how all this came together, right? So I was looking at how to help this woman who had the 13 miscarriages and all the hard stuff. And, you know, one of the main things that she came to me for actually wasn't the miscarriages at all. I'm picking up because I'm trying to fit all this in a box and make it all fit together. She came with hemorrhoids of all things, but these weren't just hemorrhoids. These were huge varicose veins that she'd had operated on so many times. And also, what was strange is she actually did have a live birth, and its heart wasn't formed, so it had a hypoplastic heart. I'm like, this is so weird. So then we found the MTHFR on her, and she had both copies. And then I started studying it. So what I found out was that our food supply, I know I'm always dogging on the food supply, but our food supply changed like 40, 50 years ago, right? And if you look back 40, 50 years ago and you watch videos, it's nuts because like nobody was overweight. All these chemicals weren't in our food supply. They were like wearing pencil pants and stuff. I mean, there was the Aunt B every once in a while that was overweight, but not very often. Okay, so food supply changed and we're eating all this crap, right? All this crap with these chemicals. And so kids started getting spina bifida. It was like becoming like an epidemic. And spina bifida, if you don't know, most kids end up in a wheelchair and can't walk. And yeah, it's really bad. So it was really heavy weighing on the government and the system. So they were like, what's causing that? And the scientist found out. Hi, Paula. Scientists found out that it was a folate deficiency. Folate deficiency. And so, yes, folic acid, bad. Yeah, all the chemicals. I can't say that P word. I get in trouble. But yeah, so food supply changed, and we're not getting folate anymore because we're not eating green leafy vegetables. And so they figure out it's a folate deficiency. So they're like, okay, we got to do something about this. Well, the cheap thing to do was to use folic acid. And maybe at the time they didn't understand the implications of this decision. And this is a synthetic version. You know me, I'm always talking about synthetic hormones versus bioidentical, right? I mean, it's a thing. You put these synthetic molecules in your body, and your body doesn't know what to do with them. You're going to have problems. Okay, so we started having problems. And they were putting this folic acid, and it's super cheap to produce. In fact, they can make it in vats, and bacteria actually produce it, and then they can kind of copy it and make a synthetic version of it. So it's super, super cheap. Processed birth control. Yes, absolutely. Because your liver's metabolizing this. So I'm going to show you estrogen, liver hormones. Oh, yeah, I get so excited. Okay. So they put this folic acid in, and I truly believe, I can't find enough evidence to really support this. It's sort of dancing on the edge, but I truly believe that it was all this folic acid that induced these mutations to happen. Because at the time I diagnosed that woman 20 something years ago, it was considered a rare genetic mutation. And, there are rare genetic mutations that have all sorts of weird stuff. So, oh yeah, hormones. Yeah, absolutely. There are all sorts of weird stuff that, all sort of crazy mutations that people can have. But with this one in particular, it was called a rare mutation. So now I check almost every woman who walks in my door, every patient. We do functional medicine too, because I love the neuroscience. But almost every person who walks in the door, we check the MTHFR status because it has such an impact. And in my population, these are the people who don't feel good that we're trying to help feel better, but almost 80% have at least one copy of the MTHFR. And then we also check for other things like the COMT, the MTRs, the VDRs. So I won't go into all that. I want to really just kind of stay with this because that's like another whole hour. But as I'm researching this, I really truly believe born with it or can happen later. Yes. So you have the predisposition to this, but it's a mutation, it's an alteration. So we weren't ever meant to have this, right? So yeah, absolutely. It's not like being born with your eye color or your hair color, if that makes sense. So those are set genetics, basically. These are alterations or SNPs, SNPs. Okay, so basically what has to happen is there is a form of folate that is what your body uses, and it uses it down in the DNA, and it regulates your metabolism, so weight gain. It regulates how your liver processes your hormones and chemicals, and it processes pretty much every process in your body. And so what happens is there is something called DHF or dihydrofolate that turns into tetrahydrofolate. You don't have to know that. Then 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate, and then this active form, so L-methylfolate. So there is, to you guys that were asking, this is the fix, basically. Okay, so if this is the fix, you have to make sure that you get this form and don't take this form, because if this form is a problem, where it happens that it's a problem is this is the gene, this is the MTHFR right here. And if you can't use this enzyme to convert this and you block that, you can't make this active form. And homocysteine is in this side product, and there's a whole nother thing there that gets a little complicated. But homocysteine is that inflammatory molecule that can then cause all the problems, and it can cause inflammation in the blood vessels, which can be then uterine artery clots. It can be heart attacks, strokes, but I did draw that A129C7C and the 667. I get confused with that. I'll say those again. But anyway, between those two types, the A1 is the one that causes the elevation in homocysteine. So it is, but you can still have problems with the other MTHFR. But homocysteine is the inflammatory thing that causes pretty much all of the problems. So, okay, so you want to make sure that you get L-methylfolate. And this is really interesting because a lot of people don't know this. And little backstory on this. So as I'm learning about this for myself, I have to say that this is so interesting because I had stomach pain, like pain. I can't even really describe it, but it was like my stomach just hurt all the time. And I remember like just thinking it was normal. Like I guess everybody hurts like this. And fast forward 30 years, 40 years, I learned about this. And so I started taking methylfolate, this guy here. I started eliminating folic acid as much as I could through fortified foods. That's what they started doing, was sticking folic acid in everything, because they're like, okay, we got to get some folate in, but it's not the same. And one day I was in an airport, and the friend that I was with said, Tammy, you haven't like held your stomach one time. And when you're in an airport, it's like you're eating junk food, and there's like pressure from the plane, the pressure from the hyperbaric pressure from being in the plane. And I was like, I haven't complained of my stomach. And it was like, I realized this might be the first time in my life that I can remember that my stomach doesn't hurt. I mean, it was always just low grade. I mean, it wasn't anything crippling or anything, but so I was like, okay, stomach pain's gone, cured. Fast forward like a year later, still taking my methylfolate all the time, studying the crap out of this, learning as much as I can. I go and I run out, and I'm like, you just kind of stop taking stuff sometimes, and you're like, maybe I don't need it, right? And so, like, one day I was like, my stomach pain was back, and I was like, what the heck is this? This is stomach pain I always have. Where'd that come from? What's wrong? And I realized the only thing different was I stopped taking my methylfolate. Started my methylfolate. I never have stomach problems. So, and the sad thing is that a lot of people don't understand that it's different, that folic acid is different from folate. And one night I went to the health food store because we'd ran out of our supply in our office, and I didn't want to run out. And so there's a lady, she was so sweet, and she came up to me and she was like, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for methylfolate. And she's like, oh, here's the folic acid. I'm like, it's not the same thing. So yeah, people don't understand. And I was really sweet to her. I'm like, it's okay, because I didn't have time to explain it all, right? And it's kind of like the B12. The methyl B12 is not cyano B12, but they do cyano B12, cyanocobalamin, because it's actually cheaper, and the shelf life, cyanocobalamin is B12 forever, and methyl B12, it goes bad fast because it's a methyl group and it just kind of dissolves. So I had a lady go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist was saying, folic acid hurt my mom. Yeah, could be. And so the pharmacist was like arguing with my patient about prenatal vitamins. Pregnant, wish I would have known. Yeah, I wish every woman would know, because how many women are taking folic acid in their prenatals? And there are actually good supplements that have methylfolate in them. So like Metagenics is a good company. So you always want to look for companies that know what methylfolate is. That's how I kind of judge if the company knows what they're doing with their supplements. So yeah, so she was telling the pharmacist, she's like, no, I want the methylfolate in my injections because that's cyanide. And he's like, no, it's not. It's the same thing. And she's like, and I just told her, you just can't argue with uninformed people. I mean, it's just because they're just digging their heels in and their egos, and they can't be wrong. But yeah, so a small amount of cyanocobalamin, we could argue, is not bad. But like, how much small amount of poison is bad, right? So so what should you take if you're pregnant? So look for prenatal vitamins that have methylfolate. So write that down, methylfolate, or take a screenshot. Methylfolate. So this is the pathway. And if you have this enzyme defect, you can't convert your pathway of folate into this methylfolate. And I kind of think of it as poison. They had me on it weekly. Yeah. And a lot of people that have rheumatoid arthritis and they're taking methotrexate and they put you on folic acid, it's like, that's the worst thing ever if you have this defect. And a lot of people do. I mean, it's crazy. So, yeah. Where's it going with that? Okay. So I think of it like when we were kids. This is so gross. I apologize if you have a weak stomach, but there were kids who would like chew their gum and then like put it up under the table, and they called it ABC gum, and then they'd offer you the ABC gum. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. BDR attack, yes. Okay, so we talk about BDR attack, and we can talk about CMT a little bit too. But so ABC gum, already been chewed gum, that's what I think of as methylfolate. It's ready for your body to use. So this is the form that you want. So this is natural dietary folate. It's already in these forms. So you'll see the terms. You'll see folinate, L-methylfolate, 5-tetrahydrofolate, anything like that. If you see folic acid, run away, run away. CBS carrier, not have HFR messed up. So yeah, so CBS is a main detox pathway one. And so all these interplay together. So your COMTs, your CYPs, all these liver pathways absolutely do connect. But mostly the MTRs and the MTHFRs are your methylation pathways. Clear toxins is the biggest thing. So, but oh my gosh, I have to talk about COMT a little bit because it's super cool. Okay, so yes, absolutely this. And you can actually, so this plays into heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, DVTs, things like that. And I always say cholesterol, I'm going to talk about cholesterol in just a second, but cholesterol is not a marker of heart attacks and strokes. That's what they want you to think. A better marker for having heart risk is a homocysteine level. And that's an easy blood test to do. So you can write that one down if you want to ask your primary care doctor, and they'll go, a what? Why do you want that? And they might be smart and they might go, oh, okay, yeah, we can check that. Because if it's high, then you have an increased inflammation risk in the blood vessels. You can also check a folate level. However, folate levels in the blood are not really accurate as to what is in the cells. Nutritional yeast. Trying to think how to connect the dots there. I'm not sure. I have to do some research on that, Rianne. If you want to direct message me, I'll do some research on that though. But yeah, I can't think how to connect the dots other than it can help the leaky gut, which is all connected here. So I could say that for sure, which is probably why I had the abdominal pain for all those years, because it was making the biome and the leaky gut stuff worse as well. Okay, so I'm going to go with this. Okay, I'm going to talk about hormones, and let's do that real quick. So I have to switch this around. I got out of order here, so let me switch this. Okay. Okay, so again, I want to point out that 40% of men have this defect, and 60% of women have this MTHFR. And so why is that? Why is that? So we're going to talk about that. The blood test is called homocysteine. Let me write that for you. HOMOCYSTIENE. EINE. I don't know, I'm dyslexic tonight. Homocysteine. Yeah, so that's the inflammatory protein. Did you get it? You want to screenshot it? Okay, I'm going to assume you got it. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, homocysteine. Okay, so this is the life cycle. You guys know I had to do this. I totally had to do this. I always have to do this. So this is a life cycle of a female from 0 to 100. And at 50, this is where we hit menopause, born with all the eggs we're ever going to have. And when we hit 51, 2, whatever, our basket runs dry. And then we are literally, our ovaries dry up and die. And that is what we're left with till we're 100, however long we live, or we don't want to live that long without any hormones. But this is the no estrogen, no progesterone, no testosterone. And the connection with the estrogens and estrone is the connection with why women have more of the problems with the methylation than men do. Because the biggest thing is this estrogen component. And I always say estrogen because there's different kinds. And if you look at estrone, which is the problematic one, and God doesn't make a bad hormone, but it is the one that has the proliferative effects, meaning growth. And you do not want growth in your breasts when you're over the age of 50, because that can turn into renegade cells, which can turn into cancer. So we don't want excess estrone around. And when our ovaries dry up, our adrenal glands start making androgens that can convert in the liver. And then we store belly fat. Belly fat has more of the enzyme that makes estrone. So then we have this problem of having this renegade inflammatory estrogen called estrone. And that happens in the liver. Okay. So your body makes, your liver makes most of your cholesterol. It is not a fatty globule ready to cause a heart attack. It is a hormone, a pro-hormone that makes your hormones. So any doctor who wants to stick you on cholesterol medicine, you got to kind of question that. That turns into your progesterone, your estrogen, and your testosterone. But estrogen, as it turns into E1, is done through the methylation process in the liver. So you kind of see in the connection there in the liver. So there's two different pathways. We call it phase 1, phase 2, detox and methylation. And if you have hormone issues, endometriosis, PCOS, which is ovarian dysfunction, or anything that has an estrogen dominant proclivity, basically what we're dealing with is in a menstrual cycle of 28 days, if you're still having menstrual cycles, not here, but you have estrogen that drives this part of the cycle. You build up a lining, and then it's supposed to come down like this. What makes that come down into the normal range, or to the, this is the follicular phase, what makes that come down is progesterone kicks in here. Well, if progesterone is deficient, now estrogen goes crazy, and we call that estrogen dominance, and that's all estrone that does that. So if you have too much estrone, that's where we start to run into problems with the whole methylation cycle. So what do we do about that? We take bioidentical estriol, E3, which is like a fire blanket on estrone, E1, and we give you plenty of estradiol so that you can help this methylation, so that you have the parts of this process through the liver that help your methylation. And that is why when we lose our estrogen, we start to have more methylation problems. So that's the connection. So kind of crazy. But anyway, okay, so I promised you guys, I have just a few more minutes. I know I promised you guys that I would do a little bit of the COMT and the VDRs. And our genetic test kits do all of this stuff. So kind of nice. The blood test just does the MTHFR. I haven't found a blood test for the COMTs yet, but we can also, Amanda, I love that. Mind blown. Hello. Okay, so this one's really fascinating. So I'll make sure I get this in. Anybody who has ADD or ADHD, this is so fascinating. And I've had so many people go, oh, I get it. Okay, so COMT is another transferase enzyme. But basically what happens is you take a chemical in your brain called dopamine, which is your happy chemical. And that changes into, I love all the different colors. This changes into serotonin. In those pathways, in the DNA, all this is made. Okay. And so serotonin is your like, just chill. And when Prozac came out, everybody was like, the smiley face commercials and stuff on the, emoji kind of looking thing, because everybody was taking it and it was keeping more serotonin around. The problem is serotonin depletion happens and then it just bottoms out. And so I'm not telling you to stop your antidepressants. I'm not at all, like, talk with your doctor before you do anything, but yeah, so it just stops working, and because your system overrides it because of your COMTs. And then if you're old enough to remember, when you'd watch the news or watch TV, there would be these commercials come on that were talking about, if you're on an MAOI inhibitor, don't take this medication. That's this pathway too. So the MAOI pathway is right here with the COMTs. And so what happens is, in people who have this COMT defect, their dopamine, they'll be like really super happy. Like dopamine is like your like best chocolate chip cookies ever, just the very best of feeling. You're just like almost manic. You're so excited. It's like the addictive behaviors. It's like dopamine rush. That's what you get when you're shopping and like on TikTok shopping, and you're like, oh, I got to do this. It's dopamine rush when you do that. Yeah, COMT's on there too. So then you want to be like so happy, but then you want to just be happy, right? I mean, you don't want to be like highs, lows. So what happens is there is a pathway that goes this way that makes adrenaline. And adrenaline is a peptide hormone that you feel when you get scared, or if you pull out in front of a car, that feeling, that adrenaline that comes. Or some people are adrenaline junkies because they just like the way that feels. I do not. I am not adrenaline junkie. I'm like, Y'all can go climb those mountains and those four-wheelers. I don't care. That's not my thing. I don't want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Not a dopamine junkie or adrenaline junkie. So in people who have this COMT defect, they don't convert to serotonin. They convert to adrenaline. So these people feel really, really good. And then they feel really, really anxious. So anxiety, ADD, can't focus. And one of the problems is when they put you on ADD meds, like the stimulants, it basically can suppress your adrenal glands from making its own adrenaline. And taking methylfolate is actually the pathway that overrides this in part. But there's another part of the pathway. There's another B vitamin called niacin. And this is kind of fascinating. There was the guy who, I don't think I can talk about this. Anyway, some behaviors, addictive behaviors and things like that. Anyway, there was a person who made a 12-step program. And okay, so I'm being really careful, right? A 12-step program. And he wanted to incorporate niacin because he understood that there are issues with people who have certain habits that have this. And so their livers don't process alcohol the same way. And so they said, no, they just wanted to be about the 12 steps. And so, then we kind of ran into that situation where this kind of went by the wayside. But if you Google 12 steps and niacin, you'll see a ton of stuff on that. So it's pretty super cool. Okay, so VDR, I love VDR, and we can save more of this for next time, but VDR is your vitamin D pathway. And so what your body does is your body takes vitamin D1 through the skin, and then D2 through the kidneys, and then D3, the form D3, is in the liver. So all roads lead back to the liver, right? All your hormone conversion, all of these processes, clearing toxins, all the things. So people always say, when I check their vitamin D levels and they're low, they're like, I don't understand because I'm in the sun all the time. Well, that's great. You probably have plenty of D1, but if the D1 goes to the D2, but then it goes to the D3 to the active form, it's kind of like the methylfolate is the final already been chewed ABC gum. It's the already processed form that your body can just use directly. The D3, that's the reason we take D3, because your body can use that directly. So you don't have to worry if you have the VDR SNP, you can still get your D3 through supplementation. And so when I check my patients who have low vitamin D, I pretty much assume that they've got VDR, especially if it's down in the teens, because it's supposed to be like 100. And then also, I don't think I said this, but you can also have your folate levels checked. I think I did say that. Yeah, actually, the serum folate is not as accurate as what's in the tissue. But I just had a lady this week who we checked. We check all the things when we do our functional medicine consults in the office. But anyway, her folate came back really low. And I was telling her about it. And I kind of briefly talked about this a little. She's like, my family does have that. We do have that. She didn't know if she had it, but okay. So anyway, so I told her to get my MTHFR book. So if you go to my link in bio, I have a book that I wrote on all of this stuff. And it's like, I'm super proud of it and a labor of love. And it's all things, it's called the methylation solution, and you can have it absolutely free. And I love that you can have it absolutely free because I can capture your email. And that way, if anything ever happens to me and I say something that they don't like, I can still send out an email to you and tell you where I'm at. I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all these lives are streamed there as well. So if anything ever happens to me here, just go find me there. Oh, and YouTube. All these are on YouTube as well. So you can find me there. But if you go to my link in bio, you can buy our methylfolates if you want. And there's the freebies, and then there's the shop page, and it'll take you right to Shop Hormone Bliss, which is the actual Shop Hormone Bliss. So Hormone Bliss is our site. You can go read about hormones and all the things. Oh, thank you. So yeah, go get a test kit. Start with that. That's in my link in bio. There's a thing that says get your test kit, or go to hormonebliss.com. And it's just a little over $100, $129. Super simple to check your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. knowing what your estrogen levels are helps this work better. It helps you methylate better. And yeah, once you go to Shop Hormone Bliss, um, just type in the little search bar genetics, because I don't think I have it like front and center on the page. It's kind of hidden, but you can go get it there. But yeah, and then we'll get you on some bioidentical estrogen, help your methylation processes work better. And it's just, it's my passion project. I'm super, super passionate about all of this. So, and you guys, it's so cute. As soon as I start talking about the test kits, like all these sales start coming through, because it's like I have to shut it off sometimes, because like when I do these lives, it's like they just start coming through. I love it. Love it. Oh, thank you, Constantina. Yes, I love you guys. You're so awesome. So, so awesome. And anything I could do, you can direct message me. I'm not so busy that I don't check all my DMs. So I'm happy to give you any guidance that I possibly can. But yeah, so do the test kit, see where you're at, stop being gaslighted. Even if you're on hormones, people ask me all the time. Somebody asked me today, they have somebody they know that's on testosterone pellets, and like, can we do this? And yeah, absolutely we can. And see where you're at, because a lot of times doctors aren't really managing this, or they're just sticking pellets in people. Oh my gosh, I have to fix that all the time. I have so many women who come to me because these doctors are just throwing testosterone pellets in people and not even checking blood work. And I had to take, just recently, I had to take some pellets out of some lady because she was just miserable. You need to be more than normal. You need to be awesome. Oh, I'm thankful that you're here. Lab test results um, kind of depends on the postal service. And right now we have so much snow here. I don't know how long things are going to take. Take lab results if I mailed today. Okay, if you mailed it today, it should be 2 or 3 days to get there, and then 2 or 3 days to read, and then we can get you on the schedule pretty fast. We're actually having to hire new hormone experts to get to everybody. So yeah, about a week. Yeah, so that's good. So yeah, you guys are more kids. I love it. So yeah, so go do that. Go to my link in bio, get some freebies, get on my email list, and anything you guys need, I'm here for you. Registration for B12 is higher. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Okay. I love you guys very much. I'm here every night at 7 o'clock. And as long as you guys keep showing up, I will too. So please, yeah, it does, Misty. My moderator is going to get mad at me. He's like, we got to make some money off these test kits. And I'm like, no, because it's pretty much at cost, especially when we do the 20 off. So, genetic testing for dietary. I know, Misty, don't tell. I'll get in trouble. Okay, so low thyroid. Okay, so we do need to do a thyroid talk again, because I know I've done. It's been a little while since I've done thyroid, because I love thyroid, so much about thyroid. But yeah, let me go clear up, because we have food sensitivity testing on there. We have genetic testing, so it's definitely the genetic testing one. He says it's over. It is? Okay. I guess they'll just have to go see. Okay. Anyway, I got to get off here. I got to like go get in trouble, I think. Okay. I love you guys so much, and I will see you here tomorrow night.